بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علمك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. The second hadith that I'm going to quote tonight, again from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, reads as follows: Al-ilmu afdalu min al-mal bi-sab'ah. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam said, knowledge is better than money for 7 reasons. Of course, this doesn't mean that it is only 7, but at least 7 reasons. Al-awwal, the first reason is إنه ميراث الأنبياء والمال ميراث الفراعنة. Knowledge is something that you inherit from the prophets. The prophets left us with knowledge. But money is what you inherit from people like Pharaoh, because Pharaoh doesn't have knowledge to leave behind. So if you inherit Pharaoh, you get money. If you inherit prophet, you get knowledge. الثاني العلم لا ينقص بالنفقة والمال ينقص بها. Knowledge would not be reduced when you use it. If you know something, by using it for your own practice or using it by sharing with people, teaching them, your knowledge indeed becomes better and better. You know, if you know something and then you start teaching it, you understand it better, you grasp it better. Sometimes new ideas you learn. But money, when you give to someone, when you spend, then you don't have it anymore. الثالث يحتاج المال إلى الحافظ والعلم يحفظ صاحبه. Amir al-Mu'minin said, for money you need a protector. If you have lots of money, you have to always worry. I may lose money, or some people may come and steal my money, or I don't know, maybe it would be confiscated, or perhaps the price may go down and I lose my money. So there are many different ways that you may lose your money. But if you have knowledge, you don't need to protect your knowledge. The knowledge protects you. No one is able to steal your money. You may have heard the story of Ghazali, that he was a very knowledgeable person and he had many books, many notes. Once when he was traveling, their caravan was stopped by some thieves. And they were looking for everything valuable, to take with them. So when they went to him, he said, please don't touch my books. These are books and notes, results of, decades of study. Please don't touch them. Then that person, that thief, told him, result of your life must not be on some papers, must be something in your heart. And then he changed his style and he tried to be more spiritual and to gain the knowledge from within, not just by reading. So knowledge can protect you instead of being in need of your protection. الرابع, this is very beautiful, like others. العلم يدخل في الكفن وَيَبْقَى الْمَالِ. If you have lots of money, assets, properties, when you die, can you take them with yourself to the other world? No. There is a gate between this world and the next world. They don't let you to take anything with you. Even you cannot take, a handbag. You have to just go without taking anything. So, if you have millions of dollars or pounds, you cannot take with you. So, it's not going to benefit you. Indeed, it may cause troubles for you because, first of all, when you have lots of money, it makes departure very difficult for you because you don't want to leave this world. Secondly, you will be questioned, how did you earn this money? في حلالها حساب وفي حرامها عقاب. If you have earned from halal, still you have to go through the questioning process. Lots of questions to answer. And if it is from haram, then you don't have even answer. You have to be punished. So you will be asked, how did you earn them? How did you spend them? So it's very difficult. So not only it's not helping you, it's going to make it very difficult for you. But knowledge is something that you can take with you. It's going to be with you all the time. And on the day of judgment, you can be resurrected as alim. This is very important. For example, we have hadith that if you remember, if you memorize, remember 40 hadiths that you benefit in your life, you will be resurrected as a faqih on the day of judgment. It's very important to be resurrected as a faqih. Inshallah, I will mention some hadiths in the coming nights. So knowledge can help you, but money is not coming with you. It's going to remain here. Al-Khamis, Al-Mal yahsulu lil-mu'min wal-kafir. Wal-ilm la yahsulu illa lil-mu'min khassatan. Money is something that can be achieved, can be acquired by both believers and non-believers. Those who don't have any faith, infidels. Both can acquire. Indeed, the Quran tells us that the chance of those who don't have faith to become richer is higher. It's a kind of a rule in this world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that had it not been that some believers may lose their faith, we would have given those who don't have faith so much that they would have made the roofs of their houses from gold. So not only Allah doesn't have any restriction for giving money to the people who have no faith, indeed there is an ease in giving money to the people who have no faith. Why? For two reasons. One is because these people have nothing else. The only thing that they value and appreciate is money. They have no akhirah. So let them enjoy this dunya. Secondly, these people have no faith. So there is no danger of money affecting their faith. Yeah? If there is a person who is a believer, who is concerned about his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you are worried that if he becomes rich, he may lose this. But if someone already has lost this, okay, give him money because he has already lost everything. But for a moment you are worried that if he becomes rich, what is going to happen? Of course, this doesn't mean that rich people are necessarily bad, but it's very difficult to be rich and to maintain your faith. So therefore you have to be very careful. You know the story of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. that when he prayed for someone who was nicer, he prayed that Allah gives him only that much that he would have enough to pay for his expenditure. Kefaf. But someone who was not nicer, Rasulullah prayed for him that he becomes rich. So people were surprised. This person was nicer, he should be given lots of money. But the wisdom of Rasulullah is that if someone is good, is mu'min, enough is enough for him. You just have sufficient, income so that you can meet your needs, you pay your, bills and mortgage or whatever. That's enough. المال يحصل للمؤمن والكافر والعلم لا يحصل إلا للمؤمن خاصة. السادس, the sixth reason for knowledge being better than money is this. جميع الناس يحتاجون إلى صاحب العلم في أمر دينهم ولا يحتاجون إلى صاحب المال. Everyone, when it comes to religious affairs, when it comes to their relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they need alim. They need someone who has knowledge. Every person. Whether you are a doctor, engineer, driver, anything, you need an alim to help you. But it's not that everyone needs a rich person. You can, have your life without any problem and have no need to be in touch with a rich person. And finally, 7, العلم يقوي الرجل على المرور على الصراط والمال يمنعه. العلم يقوي الرجل على المرور على الصراط والمال يمنعه. Amir al-Mu'minin says, knowledge strengthens the person, gives him power for what? To cross the bridge of Sirat. So if you want to cross the hell, because Sirat is over hell, then knowledge helps you. Because knowledge is like wings. It's not a burden. It helps you to fly. But al-mal, money stops you. So if you have money, it's like a burden. When someone wants to walk with difficulty, and then you create more problem by asking him to carry hundreds of kilograms of stone, then it becomes very difficult. He has already problem. Now you are attaching these stones to him, it becomes very difficult. But knowledge is like releasing someone from problems. So there are 7 reasons mentioned in this hadith to show that knowledge is better than money. Okay. Now let us go back to our studies about Islamic belief system. Yesterday we talked about the need for argumentation. We said that every person in his or her principles of faith should be equipped with arguments so that for himself and also for communication to other people and to defend himself or herself against the questions and objections coming from atheists can defend. There are many different arguments mentioned by Muslim scholars, Christian scholars, philosophers. We mention here 3. One is argument from design. In Islamic tradition, it is known as Burhan al-Nazm. Nazm means order. In the West, it is known as argument from design. This is a very historical argument. in philosophy, at least it goes back to Plato. At least, maybe even before that. But the first philosopher, major philosopher on record is Plato, and then Aristotle. And it comes along with centuries. When it comes to medieval ages, someone like Saint Augustine, he has mentioned this. Then later, Saint Thomas Aquinas has mentioned this. And Aquinas has 5 arguments for the existence of God, and one of them is this argument from design. And then later also, some theologians and philosophers have developed this. And in Islamic philosophy, we have people like Abu Bakr al-Baghlani, we have Kandi, we have Ibn Rushd, Averroes, Ghazali, Fakhr Razi, and Khaja Nasir Tusi, and up to today. This is frequently mentioned by Muslim philosophers and theologians. What is this argument? This argument has 2 parts, or if you want to use logic terminology, 2 premises. We have minor premise and major premise. We say Sughra and Kubra. We have 2 premises for every syllogism. Syllogism means qiyas, kind of deduction. So, for example, we say every human being is mortal, and Socrates is a human being, so the result is that Socrates is mortal. This is the first type of syllogism. So we have 2 premises. One premise comes from reflection on the world, and the first unit helps you a lot in understanding this part. To understand better the order that exists in the world, the first unit helps you. Although in the second unit also there are a few examples, but the first unit is everything dedicated to this. We know that there is order in this world. Inshallah, I will talk about different aspects of this order. And then we say this order must be result of a designer, an intelligent being that has designed this order. This order cannot be explained by saying that it was by accident. It was through an explosion. This order is too sophisticated to be a result of blind accident. It must be intelligent decision of a designer. Our scholars have articulated 3 different versions of this argument, like Ayatollah Subhani, who is one of our contemporary ulama. May Allah give long life to our ulama. So he distinguishes between 3 different versions of this argument, and you can use all of them. One is that there is order in everything that you find in this world. For example, if you look at human eye, you see that there is a very sophisticated order and design. Even after thousands of years of history of medicine, still we cannot claim that we know everything about the way the eye functions. It's very complicated. It's much more complicated than any camera. It's just not comparable. These cameras are not comparable to a human eye. It's very sophisticated, and everything is designed in the way that you can have the best vision. Or, for example, about the way our brain functions, our kidneys function. or about, for example, even if you go to animals, if you look at, for example, the body of camel, how camel is equipped with different mechanisms so that can survive in hot weather with very, very little water. Sometimes for many days there is no water and camel can survive. How the eyes are designed in the way that they can protect the eye against dust and sands in the desert. The feet. If you study about, I don't know, birds, about butterflies, for example, in the first unit there is a beautiful point about butterflies and how some scientists, I think actually they were British scientists, they were doing some research to find out how they manage, some of them manage to travel so fast from one point to another point. And then after some studies they realized that they use some corridors, that the air pressure helps them to go faster. How some birds navigate and they go for thousands of kilometers without losing their direction. So this design that exists in human body, in animals, in plants, in everything, is something that the first approach or the first version of this argument tries to focus on. Another thing that, or another version, is to focus on everything having an end. Everything has been created for a purpose. And if everything goes all right, then they reach their potential. If you take a seed of a flower, or for example wheat or barley, and put it in the soil, the seed by itself has all the instructions, all the planning that helps it to actualize the potential that it has. We are not saying everything reaches the end, because maybe then an animal comes and eats this before starting bearing for example fruits or seeds again. But it has the guidance and instruction. In the same soil, with the same temperature and air, you can have tens of different types of flowers. Who is guiding them? And everyone is taking different percentage of different chemicals. One becomes yellow, one becomes purple, one becomes green. The instruction is coming from within. Allah has put this design inside. How many types of fruits are there? And then each fruit, how many types it has? You know how many types of grapes are there? Maybe there are hundreds of types of grapes. How many types of mangoes? How many types of apples? So not only we have variety of fruits, every fruit has its own varieties. Where does this come from? This comes from a design which is inside and pushes them towards an end. So the seed of apple never becomes orange. It goes towards its own end. The third version is to emphasize on harmony in the world. So the first version was to emphasize on order in each part. The second was to emphasize on everything moving towards an end. The third is harmony in this world. So each of these is by itself an argument. and you can bring lots of scientific discussion to support this. Harmony in this world. This is very important. Inshallah, later when I talk about Tawheed and we want to prove unity of God, this harmony again, will be mentioned. In this world, there is no gap, no vacuum, or isolatedness. Everything is well connected. We are all connected. Even if a person lives in the east and another person lives in the west, we are part of one system. If someone is on this planet and someone on another planet, again we are connected. We are part of the same world. No matter how big is this world, it's one world. One harmonious world. If there was no harmony, then the earth was not able to survive. A little disharmony was enough to be destroyed, to crash other planets, or not to get enough energy from sun, or to get too much energy. If there was no harmony, either we were burnt or we were frozen. But now we have the balance. So there are three types of versions for argument from design. One is to refer to the order that exists in the world. The second is to refer to the fact that everything has an end and is moving towards its end. And the third is to emphasize on harmony. You need evidence for each of these. The evidence can be learned from science, as we have it in the first unit. And this is why those who are more informed about science are expected to be more religious. Those scholars who do lots of research, they better understand and appreciate the greatness of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, sometimes some of them, because of some issues, they may not be religious. This is not important, it's understandable. What is important is that you have religious people among the top scientists, because they understand this point. Those who are not religious, sometimes they are confused. They have some question which is not answered, or they have moral problems. That's another issue. But there are religious people among top scientists. In the book, there are few names that you can see in the book. There are people who dedicate their life to study even one type of birds or animals. There are people who go to Africa and study for decades one type of monkey. What they find there that gives them, satisfaction. Because, if it is just a matter of being paid, I don't think it's enough. Someone travels, from Europe or, North America to Africa, studying 20, 30 years, one type of animal. I don't think it's because of money. They find something very interesting. They find great order, great design, and they want to know more. There's a thirst for understanding more. So this is the argument from design. Sometimes there is a problem. Some people, when they see artificial design, they say there must be a designer. When they see a natural design, they say it can be because of accident. For example, if you see a car, a computer, a watch in a desert, even if you don't know who has brought it here, how this has come here, you don't doubt that this must be made by a person or by a group or by a factory. You never say this is because of accident. Yeah? If you see a car, if you see a computer, if you see a watch, if you see even, a little toy, You say, this must be a result of someone manufacturing this. Even if you see a house, a small house, you don't accept that this is result of, for example, a storm. There was a storm, this storm brought different materials and put them together and made a house. Or there was a flood, and this flood cut the trees, and then the trees, became house. But why, when we see an animal or a flower or a human being, we think that this can be a result of accident? Is it because these are less complicated? No, definitely they are more complicated. So what is the problem? The problem is that because we are used to seeing these great creatures of Allah, so we take them for granted. Because I have always seen rose flowers, so I take it for granted. I never understand that this rose flower, just this rose flower, is much more complicated than the best computer that you have today. It's much more complicated. This flower has life, but the computer doesn't have life. This flower can depend on itself. It takes air, it takes food, it grows, it produces everything that it needs for itself, it protects itself. But my computer cannot produce food for itself, cannot protect itself, cannot respond to what is happening around. So this is more complicated. If you see a piece of paper on which there are some couplets of poem, you never say this can be result of a child playing with a typing machine. Because the probability is not considerable. If, for example, if in English we have 28, in Arabic we have 28 letters, then the chance of a child who doesn't know anything about literature, has not been to school, pressing the right button is 1 in 28. Yeah, so if the couplet starts with B, then the chance is 1 in 28. If you want to have after B, E, for example, it's because. How much is the chance of having E after the B? Is 1 in 28 in 1 in 28. And then if you want to have C after B and E, again multiplied in 28. So just having because, it would be 1 in tens of thousands, and then having the whole couplet, and then having few couplets. There is no way any rational person can accept that a child just was playing with this and made this couplet. And now if you see a book, you can never accept that this book is a result of accident. So, is this nature less complicated than a piece of paper? So why we think that this can be a result of accident? Human genome is less complicated. How every characteristic of us is decided by our genes. And there are millions of these codes that define exactly what type of body we should have. So, this argument has two parts. One is to refer to the order, to the design that exists in the world, and the second is to say that this is too great to be result of accident. We need an intelligent designer. We call that intelligent designer God. This argument doesn't prove everything about God. One of the things that you have to remember is that arguments for existence of God have different implications. Some of them prove God with all the qualities that we need. Some of them prove the existence of God with, for example, knowledge or with power. Then for rest of the qualities, you need to bring extra arguments. What we understand from the argument from design is that there must be a being that has that much of knowledge and power to create this beautiful, magnificent order in the world. But whether, for example, God is just or not, it needs extra argument. Because we are just proving the existence of God. We don't want to say everything is finished. Or whether his knowledge is infinite or not, this needs further discussion. But because most of the people have problem with the first stage, if you prove that there is an intelligent designer, that is enough for them. But if someone accepts that, then has problem with the characteristics, then further discussions can help. So we must emphasize on this point that there is no difference between natural design and artificial design. If for artificial design you accept that there must be a designer, in the natural design would be the same. The next argument is argument based on fitra, burhan fitrat, or innate knowledge. Of course, Descartes had his own version of innate knowledge. This is somehow different, but there are some similarities. To understand this better, let us first see what is the meaning of fitra. What do we mean by the things which are fitri? And then we talk about the argument for existence of God. In Arabic, we have the term fatara. Fatara means created. One of the meanings of fatara means created. For example, we say Allah is fatir as-samawati wal ard. Fatir with ta means creator. Ya fatiru bihaqq Fatima. In sometimes with dua we say Ya fatiru means Ya khaliq. Fatir means creator. Fitra means a special type of creation. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to this term, and that has inspired Muslim scholars to use this terminology. Allah says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you should set up your face towards the religion, the true religion, which is Fitrat Allah. This is the way Allah has created. Islam is a religion, or Tawheed is a religion which is based on our fitra, on our nature. To believe in God is not something external to us. To believe in God is not something that you import. To believe in God is part of our creation. We are sometimes something doesn't have any fragrance. What do? You bring a perfume and try to put some of the perfume on this, then it starts, smelling nice. But if fragrance comes from the substance, then this is not external. It comes from itself. Knowledge of God and desire for God are not external to us. This is the fragrance coming from our own substance. This is not perfume put on us. Inside us there is desire for God and there is understanding of God. So Allah says, this is فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. This is the way Allah has created people. There are many issues like this. Before I mention this about knowing God, I want to mention some other things that we have as part of our creation, and then we shift to the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at human beings, you find there are some things that can be found in all human beings. For example, if you go to east, to west, to south, to north, any part of the world, you find that human beings have families. To live as a family is something that is not exclusive to some group of people. There is something in us as human beings that moves us towards forming family and remaining together as family. It's not something that we have learned. Someone has taught us, for example, that if you want to solve problems, you have to have family. This is something inside us. Or the love of the parents for children. This is something universal. When I was doing my thesis on ethical relativism, so one of the beautiful arguments I found in some books was this, which is very nice. This is a kind of rational argument to prove that there are universal values. Some philosophers have said that there are certain values that if they were not universal, we would not have survived. So the fact that we have survived shows that they were universally held. For example, if human beings, all different races of human beings, if they didn't have this value of protecting and loving your children, human beings were not able to survive. Why? Because a human child, unlike animals, needs care for many years. Some animals, when they are born, after a few minutes, they can be independent. Some of them after a few hours, some of them after a few days or few weeks. But a human child needs few years. And nowadays, even human children need care of parents for a few decades. So if there was no such universal love for children, then some people would have abandoned their children in early age, then their children would have died, then their generation would have stopped. So the fact that all the different races have been able to continue shows that they all had this value for loving and caring for your children. This is part of human being. And this is different from animals. In animals, although they have also love for their children, but first of all, it's very limited. And secondly, in animals, it is result of instincts. In human beings, it's fitra. What is the difference? You cannot resist against instincts. An animal cannot resist against instincts but you can resist against fitra. You cannot find a horse neglecting her baby. A cat, the same. A dog, the same. It's their instinct. So if you take hundreds of the same type and the same, variety of animals, they would react in the same way. They would behave in the same way. Why? Because everything is decided by instincts. They love their children by their instincts, therefore they protect them. When it comes to human beings, we have love for our children, but we have also ability to ignore it. And this is why, some parents don't show love to their children. Because we are not animals. We are human beings. We have freedom. We can resist against our fitra. Of course, if you resist against fitra, it can have bad implications and consequences, but still you can. There are people that, na'udhu billah, they kill their children. Either before birth by aborting, or after birth, there have been incidents that people kill their children or ignored them. Something I never forget, a few years ago, I heard, from someone that has been given the responsibility of looking after a child. He said that the parents were careless, and this is why Social Security took away the child from the parents, gave it to another family. When the child was crying, they used to put the child in a cupboard or in a something and close the door so that the sound is not annoying them. No mercy. Because human beings are not forced to follow their instincts. And this is why we call it fitra. We don't call it instinct. So, we have love for our children. We have tendency to look after them. We don't need to be taught. But we can ignore this. This is quite possible. Another value that some philosophers have mentioned, which is universal, is the value of respecting your parents. Again, they say, if you travel to any part of the world, if you go to any group of human beings, you find that they believe that you should show respect to your parents. The extent can be different. The way they show it can be different. But there is a principle that everyone says you should respect your parents. And they say, if there was no such principle, if children of human beings in any part of the world, in any tribe, they didn't have this principle, and they would have, instead of respecting their parents, would have annoyed them and hurt them and beat them, then they would have decided not to have children. And then they would have stopped to exist. So the fact that they have continued to live shows that in addition to parents having love for the children, children had respect for the parents. Of course, nowadays, again, this is stopping, and this is why people don't want to have children. Because when you see no respect coming from your children, then you say, why should I have a child? It's better to have a dog. At least it respects me. But so far, this has been universally held that you respect your parents. Okay? So if, God forbid, this starts missing, then we may go into decline. The population will go down. Because then parents would have no reason to have children. So, those things which are fitri are universal. they are not in need of education, although you can educate them, people, so that they know how to handle it better. Yeah? You can tell people that, for example, when you want to marry, this is the way you select your spouse. But no one needs to be taught about marriage as a principle. Every human being naturally feels that he or she needs to marry. But you can educate to give them the manners, the details. Do you understand the point? But the love comes automatically. We don't need to be taught. And unfortunately, what happens sometimes is that when they want to educate, they educate earlier than the natural time. Then this hastening can create problems. And you see that sometimes, people, even when they are 13, 14, they are so much exposed to sexual things that then they start having problems. Another thing is that those things which are fitri are normally good. I'm saying normally because sometimes we, unfortunately, misdirect them. This is a very important point, and this is the last point I make in this session. And this is good also for the parents, for the teachers. Anything that is fitri, anything which is part of human nature is good. You don't find anything in our creation, in our nature, which is bad. If we have desire for knowledge, this is fitri. Every human being has desire for knowledge. If we have desire for beauty, human beings have desire for beauty. Other beings don't have this. For example, animals. Animals don't have desire for beauty in the way that we have. And this is why they don't improve. If you take a nest of a pigeon today, and another 100 years ago, another one 200 years ago, if you were able to compare them, you don't find they are becoming better and better. They are always the same. For them, it's important to have a comfortable place. They are not like us spending, most of our time and energy on beautification. We have desire for beauty. Of course, sometimes we go to extreme. That's another issue. But the desire for beauty by itself is good. We always try to make things beautiful. Even if we want to eat something, we want to make it beautiful. In addition to be delicious, we want to make it beautiful. And then we eat it. Because we always love beauty. Or the desire for kindness. You desire kindness. You don't just desire, for example, food and drink and shelter and dress. Imagine if you are, for example, a person that gets all the needs that he or she has. For example, you need food, it comes to you. Or you go and buy from machine. If you want drink, you get it from machine. If you want dress, you get it from machine. Everyone around you is a robot. This makes life miserable. Because we as human beings want to be loved. I want to know that I am important for someone. If I have everything that I need for my life, for my survival, I just lack love. If I believe that I'm not important to anyone, this makes my life miserable. So this is fitri in human being. Of course, this desire for beauty, desire for knowledge, desire for love, they must be regulated. This must be oriented. if they are regulated properly, they all lead you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because who is the most beautiful? Who is the most loving one? Who is the source of knowledge? So, if you follow this path, you would finally come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll talk about it later. In any case, there is nothing fitri in us, nothing in our nature which is bad. If there is anything bad in us, it's because we were not able to handle these things properly. Even those desires which are shared with animals, these are not fitri, because fitri is only for human beings. But those which are shared with animals, like desire for food, desire for drink, desire for shelter, desire for comfort, even these are not bad. By themselves, they are not bad. By themselves, they are neutral. It is the way that we respond that can be bad. I need food, but if I steal food, this is bad. Otherwise, the desire for food is not bad. So, when it comes to common desires between us and animals, they are not bad. They are not also necessarily good. It's up to us how to answer. But when it comes to fitri desires, those things which are exclusive to human beings, they are all good. All the fitri desires are good. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.